Right then, lads, welcome back to Kossi's Arsenal podcast. My name is Kossi. We're back again with a series of previews for the Crystal Palace Arsenal game, which will be on Monday. I'm going to look at Crystal Palace, their preview, and basically this for this video. I said it in the previous video that I think we will beat Crystal Palace. We're going to try to analyze Crystal Palace. Where are they in the Premier League? What are they good at? Who are their danger men? Players to watch? How many goals have they scored? And probably how can Arsenal beat Crystal Palace, or how can Crystal Palace beat Arsenal? It's more of a preview that is going to focus on Crystal Palace as a side. Later on, tomorrow we will do a preview. An Arsenal preview basically, and try to look at our strengths, weaknesses, which players should we use, our predicted lineup, and a couple of others. So this one is more like an opposition preview, and we'll have these each and every single match day. Right, let's get the party started. Make sure you hit a like, on the video, subscribe as well, and smash that comment section. Just put so many of your thoughts, especially the prediction of the game, in the comment section. So do you think Crystal Palace can beat Arsenal? And do you think Arsenal can beat Crystal Palace? That is the question I'm going to be answering in this video. Coming into this game, Crystal Palace have actually played 7 games. Now that means we've played the same number of games, and they're 14th. We are 10th. That means we are 11th. Sorry, that means we are slightly better than them. This could change by the time we play them, because we are, like I said, we are 11th, but we are playing on Monday. 18 clubs shall have played, by then their 8th game. So there are high chances that by Monday we could be either higher, on the table, or even lower. And Crystal Palace could also be higher on the table, or even lower. So it depends. But as per time of recording, they are 14th on the table, and we are 11th. One of the things you have to know about Crystal Palace is that they are under the management of ex-Arsenal player Patrick Vieira. I mean, it's crazy. Nobody expected, you didn't see that coming. An Arsenal legend, Patrick Vieira, coming back at Arsenal. I think most of the biggest memories of him at Arsenal were at the Highbury. But of course, Highbury, Emirates, it's home. It's home for Patrick. It's home for Thierry. It's home for Dennis Beckham. So he's coming home with a difficult task to beat Arsenal, a club that he loves so much, a club that made him what he is, and probably a club that he made the history for in the later half of the last 2 decades of Arsenal's footballing career and life. So Patrick Vieira, the philosophy we have seen him, trying to put into Crystal Palace, implement into Crystal Palace, only shows you that he really still understands. He's got the blueprint. He's got that kind of, blood still running through his veins. What and how they used to do things back then at Arsenal. So if you look at Crystal Palace, they will not try to hold the ball so much because I've seen them in a couple of games. They really use their width a lot. They use the likes of Wilfred Zaha, to run a lot at defenses, get you on the break, get you by by surprise and things like that. So I don't think it's gonna be a huge how should I call it? I don't think it's gonna be a huge battle, a huge midfield battle of who controls the game, especially in the midfield. But I think it's gonna be a lot of running for Crystal Palace, and therefore some of our players have to be on high alert. So if you look at how they line up, predominantly he lines up in a 4-3-3. Well, look, I don't mean to say anything about that, but they line up predominantly in a 4-3-3 with Guilta in goal. They have James Ward, Anderson, Mitchell, and Gehi in a back 4. A midfield of 3 where you have Milvojevic, James MacArthur and Conor Gallagher, one of their most dangerous players. So Conor Gallagher, Milojevic, as well as MacArthur in the midfield. You have Jordan Ayew, Odson Edward, who at times is replaced by Christian Benteke. So he uses them. He uses both of them interchangeably. With also completing the party is Wilfried Zaha. So I expect almost the same lineup. A 4-3-3. There must, I think their game rotates around 3 players or 4 players. Wilfried Zaha, Conor Gallagher in the midfield. You have Odson Edward or Christian Benteke, and I think for that occasion, Christian Benteke might start against Arsenal, but it wouldn't hurt if they started if they started Odson Edward, and then Jordan Ayew. Another piece of pawn that is very important, for them on the chessboard. He's not actually come out this season. He's had a couple of chances for me, clear-cut chances to just explode this season, score a couple of goals. He's missed sitters this season, but those are the 4 players that you think Crystal Palace will have to use to win the game. Wilfried Zaha, we all know the danger. We all know how good he is. Conor Gallagher, if you've not seen him, wait for him. On loan from Chelsea, obviously, but he's just ecstatic. He's just so good, with the creativity that he is their man. I think box to box as well. That is their man. And one of the ability he has is he keeps the ball and wins them a couple of dead ball advantages. So Arsenal have got to be very, very careful on that. But trying to analyze their game, like I said, they don't really possess that much. They don't have that hunger to get the ball and keep it for ages, like Arsenal want to do under Mikel Arteta, or like you saw against Brighton. I did watch them against Brighton. They were unlucky not to go away with 3 points, and that's why I think they're really, really dangerous. Brighton had the ball for around 65% or 70% of the time, and that statistic really didn't matter. It really didn't disturb them at all. Actually, if there was something that really disturbed them as Crystal Palace in that game, was the fact that Brighton were unbreakable. Brighton were very, very alert on the break. But if you look at the goal they scored, still it was on the break. So look, on one side, you've got to be grateful that they're not going to fight for possession. But on the other side, you've got to be scared for your life because they run a lot and they can expose you, especially defensive-wise. So that's why I think players like Ben White and Gabriel Magalhaes have to be on top of their game. Tomiyasu is going to be very needed in this game because at least we know he's solid and he doesn't really love the adventures of going forward and creating problems. So probably if he doesn't create problems, on the other end, he can stop problems on this end. All right. So that is their game. They only have 1 win this season, and that shows you they are struggling. They are still struggling. They're playing well, though. They're playing well. I mean, I've not seen very, very poor football, very poor displays from them. But they have only recorded 1 win. That's an advantage for Mikel Arteta. A team that has only managed to win 1 game out of 7, you should be able to beat that one, shouldn't? So their last game came against at home against Leicester City. They shared points 2-2. Leicester City, Vardy scoring for them, and actually this is a game where Crystal Palace came from behind to meet 2-0 down. 2-2 was the final score, so maybe that's another point to talk about. They score because I think they've only failed to score 3 times out of the 7. They suffered a 3-0 loss at Liverpool. They suffered a 1-0 loss to Watford, and they also suffered a 3-0 loss to Chelsea. So in the rest of the games, actually 4 times. They also shared points with Brentford 0-0. The rest of the fixtures, they have scored. They beat Watford 3-1. I think that was friendly, a club friendly at the beginning of the season. They had 2-2 sharing points again with West Ham. Again, you had 1-1 with Brighton, 2-2 with Crystal Palace, and they beat Tottenham Hotspur 3-0. That is where, that is a point of emphasis. They are dangerous. They can be deadly. They beat Spurs. Spurs did have a yellow card, sorry, a red card, but they were good throughout the game. Actually, two of the 3 goals came in the last, I think, 5 minutes of the game. Oppostion Edward coming off the bench and scoring 2 beautiful goals. Apart from that, they absolutely dominated the game from minute 15 when Tottenham became completely anonymous to the last minute. So we've got to be very, very wary about them. They play good football, like I said. Only 1 win. Doesn't really mean speak a lot. They only have 1 win, lost 2 games, and drawn 4. That shows you that however much they do not win, they are not losing massively, right? Because if you've lost 2 games out of 7, that means in the rest of the 5 games, it's either a point or 3 points. So they have only collected 3 points once, and that was at home against Crystal Palace. Why I think Arsenal can't beat Crystal Palace, however much they are good at breaking defenses and running at them, they still have a problem. They still have a very, very big problem, and that problem is breaking down defenses to score more goals. If you statistically 7 games, they have only scored 8 times, right? So that means they have only scored. If you put it the stupid way, they have scored on 2 goals on 1 occasion, and the rest of the games they have only scored 1. So it's easy to defend against them. You can't defend against them because they have around 4 players or 3 players. If you keep them out of the game, you can actually have a good game. Keep Conor Gallagher out of the game. Keep Wilfried Zaha out of the game. If Oppostion Edward starts, make sure you do, because he's a very, very versatile striker and he is really adventurous. He doesn't keep his body just around the penalty area, but he falls back and tries to create for players around him. And then, of course, if he's playing with Jadon Ayew, the moment he withdraws from that penalty area, that means automatically Jadon Ayew will come into to cover for him, and then he becomes the striker. So you've got to be wary of Oppostion Edward and Ayew, their partnership. But for me, a team that runs a lot, you've got to be wary defensive-wise. Then they don't defend so much because they have conceded 11 goals in 7 matches and only scored 8. They're just like us. They're so similar. We've not scored so many goals as well. Actually, we have a -5 goal difference. We've conceded more goals than we have actually scored. But to our defense, on our count, things are a little bit different. We started the season, the first 3 games were absolutely ridiculous. We had the worst defense in the world with Kolasinac and Holding and Chambers. Ever since we have sorted out our defensive issue, especially who starts where consistently, we have actually only conceded 1 goal, and that was against that was against Tottenham Hotspur. The rest of the games, 0-0 against Brighton, beating Burnley 1-0, and also beating Norwich 1-0. We've kept 3 clean sheets out of the last 4 games. So if we can keep that in mind, don't concede and score 1 or 2, we will beat Crystal Palace. But a warning, it is Patrick Vieira. He knows Arsenal, and maybe he would love to come to the Emirates Stadium, be welcomed very well, and walk away with a win. So that is the opposition preview. After all that information on Crystal Palace, I still stand with my thoughts. I think Arsenal will beat Crystal Palace, not by a huge margin, probably 1-0, probably 2-1. It could. I see ourselves keeping a clean sheet because we have this. We've had this, defensive transformation. It's like a revelation from I don't know. So we can't beat them if we keep that defensive discipline. Later on, if Mikel Arteta does his press conference, I'll be glad to react to it. So we'll have a press conference reaction later in the day, and probably more of the Arsenal news as they come in.